Brothers everywhere! Let's party!
Look at me. I'm Edward Scissorhands, but without scissors for hands.
You are not. You are like Edward Scissorhands.
Vaughn Weber, a name synonymous with luxury.
Whoa! You cannot sell objects that have swastikas on them.
It's the Indian symbol for luck. The good kind of swastika.
It's not cholesterol. There is no good kind of swastika. My mother-in-law won't leave my house.
We're out of tonic, and I'd appreciate if you'd invest in a removable shower head.
Mother!
Why did we agree to do Thanksgiving in the suburbs with Brooke's family? I can't believe you're hosting another party on Black Friday.
Oh, Jill, let's not discuss politics today, okay?
No, I meant the shopping stampede.
Let's not.
Okay. What about this one?
I like this.
Are you insane? You don't have the rack to hold that up. Mom! This is such a fun age.
Tonight we party like it's 1995.
Yes! We were supposed to go to the Sunset Tower, not 9021 home.
You two okay?
We stay tomorrow.
Okay. Have a good day.
I love you! Wow, this is so much fun. It's so nice. Thanks for coming, guys.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming here, Jill.
Thanks for having me.
We heard a lot of laughs from the crowd when we watched your trailer before this. But yeah, it's so lovely to have you here. We are about to hit season 3 of Odd Mom Out, and you're calling it the best one yet. Why is that?
Definitely. I feel like season 1, you know, everyone didn't know what the show was going to be yet, so I felt like I was on a tighter leash. And is it going to be too Jewish? Does she wear too much black? Are people going to relate in red states? And I think now that we have a devoted, you know, hearty following, they just gave me more rope, and I felt like I could be myself more and not really worry about it being likable, just kind of keep doing what I'm doing. And so I felt stronger. So as a result, I just think it's more of a boiled down essence. Not that the first season was diluted or anything, but it just feels stronger now. So I think everyone's gonna really like it.
Do you find that it's easier in addition to that?
Definitely.
And
the
how
first
so?
season, we were just really trying to show what the show was going to be. And now we already know we have 20 seasons under our belt. So it just kind of wrote itself. I mean, it was hard work, but the writer's room all we did was laugh all day. We had so many ideas. And I mean, I could have done 30 seasons. It's so much fun. And it just kind of like tears its way out of me. It doesn't feel like work. So I think that's what it should be.
Take us inside the writer's room. What's that like? Give us an example of how that unfolds.
Well, we take a vow of silence, sort of a cone of silence the first day because we share a lot of personal stories, and people will talk about like an STD they got in college or like some horrible sex gone awry. And we sort of do these story dumps. And so by the end of the season, we are such good friends, and it's such a kind of circle of trust. I know that sounds cheese, but it's true. I feel like really safe to tell all my stories for no judgments, because when you're really honest, you get so many ideas and we build off each other, and it's just a brainstorm, and we really have an environment where there are no bad ideas. I mean, all the time we'll couch it and like, okay, this is the shitty version, but, and it'll, you know, it might not be right on, but then it'll give someone else an idea. So it's spitballing, and it's really, really fun. And this year we have an amazing new addition, Ali Muzica, who is the head writer of Entourage. So she's just an amazing brain, and was definitely our organizer and kept everything in this like OCD, different colored Post-it notes. It was great. It was our easiest season yet by far.
Awesome. Well, I watched the premiere episode, and it's awesome. Can you take us into that first episode and how it unfolds throughout the rest of the season? Because we're taking your daughter to camp for the first time, or
Yes.
you're picking her up, and she's growing up, really.
Yes, that is Hazel's pubescence is a big through line this season. Kind of that arc takes us through all the way to the finale, and Hazel has a slightly bigger part, but it's more about how we deal with it, how Andy handles it, how I handle it, how Candace is dealing with it, and just dealing with the teenager mood swings in general. She's preteen, but it's just, I think, really the premiere finds us after this, cliffhanger of the Madoffian financial fallout, and you see all these rich people struggling with their sacrifices that they need to make, which still leaves them in very enviable positions. But what we did this year that was different was we had one less writer, and we took that money and we had a little slush fund for consultants. So we had real people come in instead of having another writer who comes from the TV formulaic world. We had a real financial analyst to tell us about rich people, the correction in the financial markets. We had an ER doctor from the Upper East Side who handles rich people accidents. So it was really great because a lot of people after the Bernie Madoff scandal had to let go of their staff. And so this guy came in with like a mangled hand because he tried to make a smoothie for the first time. And just stuff like that. And it was kind of funny because a lot of it was, grown people using an oven for the first time, and the burn unit was on overload. So I just thought it would be great for Vanessa's character to kind of lend that veracity of the Upper East Side accidents, which are atypical, I suppose.
That's great. So what other storylines will play out throughout the season that you can talk about?
Well, it hints to it in the trailer, but we have our first Thanksgiving episode. And in season 1, we had Brooklyn, and then we did the Hamptons. We just sort of like riffing on something else that's outside the city just to get out for one episode. So this time we do Greenwich, Connecticut. And it is so much fun. It was method acting because I have SPD, suburban panic disorder, and I don't know how to drive. I'm a born and bred New Yorker. I've never lived anywhere else. I lived in Connecticut for school, but I would kiss the ground at Grand Central when I got home because I'm just a city rat. I don't belong in the country. I'd rather have sirens than crickets. I cannot deal with crickets. And they're so loud, the slutty crickets rubbing their legs together. Shut up. So I don't do well out there. So the whole episode focuses on me going crazy out there. And that's kind of what happened in real life because we were shooting for 4 days out there and I just can't go to my Starbucks or I feel so trapped. So I think it's exacerbated in the script a bit, but it's very much in sync with real life.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Obviously, we know the show is based on you. It's a, overall fictionalized version of yourself. But, a couple of seasons in, how much of you is still in the Jill character on the show?
It's a great question. I would say a lot. I mean, if you break it down to a percentage, maybe 90, but the sliver of difference would be that the character is more me when I was 28, and I was a new mom, and I had no friends who were moms. All my friends were dancing on tables at Bungalow 8 and, hooking up with hot hipsters, and I was sitting there with this baby. And I'm glad everything worked out the way it did, but I definitely missed out on a lot of those years pop culturally. I just didn't feel attuned to the bands or the movies, or I was in kind of a baby fog. And I think the show really is more that time rather than now, because my kids are older now. They're older than my TV kids, and I have so much more freedom. Whereas when I was home with younger kids, it's pandemonium. So that craziness is really captured in the show, whereas now it's a bit more controlled.
So you grew up in New York, and the show takes place in New York. New York is such a character in this series. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that influences you and influences the show as a whole?
Well, New York is the love of my life. My husband says, if you had to pick New York or me, I sometimes think you'd pick New York. And I was like, of course I would. I mean, it's not even a discussion. Only because if he said, I'm moving you to some small town, I think I would wither on the vine. I'm such a city person, and I use the city as my muse, kind of. I don't think I could really write what you know. And I love visiting small towns. I love the country to visit, but I can't really imagine living anywhere else. And I feel so inspired here because I really love diversity, and I need all the different foods and people. And I was walking through Central Park yesterday with my husband, and I swear we heard every single language known to man, every language. It's just so international, and that's what I love about this city. And you don't find that even in other big cities sometimes. So I definitely feel like I couldn't write the show anywhere else, although I think it lends itself to viewers we're on in like more than 40 countries. We're on in big towns, little towns. And I think one shocker that I learned this year is that when I was doing my book tour, people in smaller towns actually have said on multiple occasions, I know you think New York is the shark-infested waters, but the truth is it's worse in my town. And I said, really? How? And they said, because we have one school. We have one supermarket. You run into your mother-in-law every day. And by the way, someone will say to you, I saw your car in so-and-so's driveway. I didn't know you were friends. What are you doing there? And I would die if I had that because we have the luxury of anonymity. And that is something I really cherish in New York is even if you perceive that there's some scene, it's in your head. Maybe it's not, but there's a million scenes. It doesn't matter. If you want to avoid people, guess what? You don't have to see them. But it's a small town. It's much more of a challenge. So I think you can't really avoid the mom bots.
What about you? Because you were a writer kind of behind the scenes for many years, and now you've become a celebrity in your own right. Do you get recognized and stopped on the street a lot more often?
So funny. I don't feel like a celebrity at all. I really don't. I mean, I'm 43. I have my friends. I have my family. I think most people who are on TV kind of come of age in front of the camera, and I'm already me. I don't feel like I'm now going to pursue red carpets and new friends. I'm not really trying to be famous. I think my agents at one point were going to fire me because I was just like, no, I don't want to. I'm not trying to be more famous. I'm just trying to do fun stuff that I like to do. But people come up to me on the street. I think it's always people that I'm happy to get a hug from or talk to. I have never so far, luckily, had a total lunatic. I think the people that watch Odd Mom Out are smart. We have smart viewers. They get it. The show is not about parenting. It's more about the odd than the mom. We have, half our viewers are gay men. We have young girls who aren't parents. I think more than half the viewers, I was told, are not parents because it's just about fitting in. That's really it. It's not about kids. The kids are barely in it. It's about fitting in and almost embracing the odd, which I think is really important to underline.
Yeah, kind of like the keeping up with the Joneses sort of thing that you were referring to in the smaller towns.
Right, but it's keeping up with the Rockefellers.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's on a whole other level. So you grew up in New York, and now your kids are growing up in New York. What are some of the things that are the same, and what are some of the things that are different in this life, in this world?
Well, I grew up in the 80s, so I was exposed to a lot of the same excesses and that sort of Gordon Gekko era of Wall Street fathers and friends who had planes and helicopters and all that. However, we did not have social media, and I think there is, I love social media, and I think it's overall a great thing, and the positives outweigh the negatives, but there is a very pernicious side to posting perfection all the time. And with my teenager particularly, who's always on her phone, social media, I say, that is a curated image. The girl probably took 30 selfies in that bikini and then did apps to filter it. And you have to understand that's as Chris Rock says, that's the ambassador of her. That's not her. And, there's something, if the grass is always greener, it's probably AstroTurf. That is what I always say to my children, because I think sometimes you have this keyhole into people's lives, and the perception is that they've got it so great and they had such a perfect weekend, and it's not true. It's a construct. So that's sort of what I'm up against, especially with, this moment where fabulosity is so important to people, and designer bags, or a post with the oval window that is a private jet, or just all of these things. I feel like the value system is so off if you think that that's great. And so I try to correct it all the time and bring them to earth.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't avoid it, and especially in New York. What do your friends say about what you're doing with the show, and what's been their reaction? I know you've talked about this a little bit before, but now a couple of seasons in, are they still really excited about it?
Yeah, they love it. I have 5 really, really close friends. I personally think that's all you need. I know people who are have a million friends, and I think it's sort of a jack of all trade, master of none. I mean, I'm very close with my friends. They're the same 5 friends that were the bridesmaids in my wedding. And I think, I don't know, I always am suspicious of people with like brand new best friends every day. And they're really the only opinions I care about. So they love the show. They're such cheerleaders. They're all, always tuning in and texting me lines, and they're my sisters, really. And so I'm very, very lucky. But it's work. I cultivate my friendships and really put in the time. I think, I don't know, the older you get, the less you can coast on inertia. Sometimes history, it's good to weed the friendship garden and not let history guide your future friendships. But
I have to agree. You definitely have to put that effort in, especially when people are doing a million different things. You have to make that time. Otherwise, you won't get to that, won't see that person. Before season 1, you were, working mostly from home, writing novels, and then you had to go full-time, 15-hour days. And I know it was a little bit of an adjustment for you. How does it feel now? Is it a little easier? And how is the family handling all of that?
Season 1 was really hard on my family. I think my kids were sort of spoiled because I was home for 11 years. And so I was at every drop off, every pickup, every play, and when I say play, I mean like a skit for 6 people. I mean, I was just there for everything. And when I suddenly vanished, I think my kids and my husband, my marriage definitely, it didn't suffer. It wasn't rocky, but it was definitely not one of our good years. Just because I think he was sort of like, this isn't what I signed up for. I married a novelist, you are gone Monday to Friday, because I leave at 4:45 in the morning. Wow. And sometimes I get home at midnight. I mean, it's crazy schedule. But I will tell you, when I'm on set, and I could be in stilettos for 15 hours, people are always offering you water. There's always food right there. When you're a mom with your kids, you just don't eat sometimes. You're running around. You look like shit. I have hair and makeup every day. It's just so much better and so much easier no matter how many lines I have to memorize and how much work I have to do. I feel like being a stay-at-home mom is so much harder.
Yeah.
So people say, how are you doing this? How are you getting through these days? And I said, this is nothing.
Yeah. We feel lucky, right? You feel very lucky. And then you get to have your kids as well. And they probably
I have
get
something to show for it.
Yeah.
I would have really, really long days with 3 kids under 4. And I don't have anything to show for it. I felt like I was treading water. And for years, I felt like I was drowning in my life. And you get out of it and your kids get older, but it's really hard because everyone keeps saying, enjoy it because it flies by. It goes by so fast. I was like, okay. I mean, not to me, but it was really, those are great years. And I look at the pictures and they're so cute, but I was tired for 10 years.
Oh my gosh. Even despite the 4:45 a.m. wake-up call. So
I'm not as tired now as when I had little kids because there was no end in sight and they need you. And now, it's temporary and I can sleep on the weekends and I have lazy teenagers who don't get out of bed.
So when you were a kid, there was a part of you that wanted to do acting and then you pursued the writing aspect. How does it feel to now be, nightly,
it's
weekly
so weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I never thought that I could be an actress, even though I was a trained actress and I was in every play in college. And I just thought you had to look, like a Barbie doll. And I thought you had to, sleep with gross casting directors. I just thought I don't have the looks that it takes. And the prettiest girl at Yale was going to go be an actress. And I thought she's going to be famous in 2 years. She's so beautiful. And has, a better body and poised and I hunchback. Anyway, I just thought that's what an actress looks like. And so I just thought, if she couldn't, and she was struggling and 4 years later, and she was a little older, so I had the benefit of watching her. And I said, if she's not getting parts, there's no way I would get parts. So I just decided I'm a workaholic and actresses really, you have to be doing other things. You can't just, if you could just be an actress and be in a play, great, I would have done that. But you have to audition and it's just a hard life. And I knew that I'm not wired for that. I need to have a job full time. So I went into magazines and I became a writer and I like that it kind of came full circle and I took this weird entrance into acting. But, I enjoy it. I think I value it and I cherish it more because I had 20 years of not doing it, but I really missed it.
Well, I think it's inspirational to a lot of people who want to change careers or think about something else that they want to do while growing up. Is it true that you also wanted to be a talk show host at one point?
Yes, that's how I met Andy Cohen, was I was pitching a talk show. I wanted to do a morning show that was not chipper, more like I'm in bed and I'm a slob and help me get up, and just a really honest morning show because I feel like a lot of them are in such good moods. And I wanted it to be like the real feeling of morning and that you and your audience are kind of actually dealing together. And he was great. He watched something of mine and he was so encouraging and said, I really want to work together, on something else. And I said that my book, Momzillas, was optioned by NBC, which is a parent company of Bravo. I said, can't you just reach over and take it? Because they owned it. And he said, no, but let's talk about this. So I sent him my book and then my first essay collection called Sometimes I Feel Like a Nut. And he sort of said, there's a show here. And Lara Spots, my showrunner, I couldn't do this show without her. She's a genius. She completes me, as they say in Jerry Maguire. She, really developed it with me.
Okay, great. Well, I know you've written a lot about yourself in your books through the years. You definitely opened up about having melanoma in your 30s. Can you talk a little bit about what that did for you and how that affected you?
I really think. Who knows? It's 2020 hindsight, but I think I wouldn't be here if I hadn't had melanoma because it just, I was 34 and I went to go get Botox on my 11s because I had these 2 grooves and I'm really not into injectables or any of that, but I had 2 really, really intense grooves here. You could canoe down my face. And I went to go, I asked my dermatologist for Botox and I had a squamous cell carcinoma when I was 12 on my back. So I've been going to a dermatologist twice a year and I asked for Botox and he said, I would never inject that poison into someone's face. You need what I call a scumbag dermatologist. Okay, so I got a scumbag dermatologist who's not a scumbag. She's awesome. And she shot me some tox. And, and then she said, is there anything else? And I said, well, I have this mole that keeps bleeding. And I showed it to my other doctor and he said, no, you're pregnant. At the time you're pregnant and you're just bleeding. Your gums are bleeding. And I said, okay. And then when my baby was 1, same thing. He totally dismissed it. And I showed her and she said, I'd like to take that off if it's bleeding all the time. It was bleeding for 2 years. And it was a melanotic melanoma, the kind Bob Marley died of. It's the most lethal kind. It can be a death sentence. So I went right to Sloan Kettering. I have a foot-long scar. They took all the lymph nodes out of my vag. And, this surgeon, Daniel Coit at Sloan Kettering, saved my life, and so did she, because it's very virulent and quick acting. So after that, I just felt like I grew a pair. I said no to anything I didn't want to go to. I just felt like life, I just kind of harnessed it more, and I felt more courageous, and I figured, you know what, that was a close one, and I met up with Deborah Black, who's the head of Melanoma Research Alliance, and they really wanted me to talk to people and scare them a little bit. And so I met my new dermatologist for moles on Good Morning America, and we were talking. I was telling my story, and afterwards he said, "You wouldn't have made it 18 months."
Wow.
Yeah. So I get chills sort of when I talk about it. But now I'm 43. I'm fine.
Yeah. So you have to get regular checkups and that whole thing.
Yeah. But for 5 years, once you hit 5 years, you're just like anybody else. But I had to get lung scans because the type of cell I had liked to migrate to the lungs. And I've never had a cigarette, not one in my life, because my mother is French and she was always chain smoking. And my parents have the best marriage, but the only thing they would bicker about was my mother smoking until she quit. But I just have never had a Satan stick.
Yeah, so you never know. That's a Satan stick. Oh my gosh. So are you working on any other books or projects on the side?
I don't think I'm going to do another book for a while. I mean, I had so much fun doing Sprinkle Glitter on My Grave. That was my last one. And I really enjoyed writing it. I want to always enjoy it. Otherwise, it'll feel like work, and I'd rather just work on things that make me laugh, that I'm having fun with. So,
how many more seasons can you imagine of Odd Mom Out?
40.
Yeah.
I want to be Odd Grandma Out. I think there's grandma problems too. I want to keep going till they boot me off.
Oh, great. Well, before we let you go, I'd love to get some questions from the crowd here.
I love audience questions.
Hi, Jill.
Hi.
So I'm actually a suburb girl from Connecticut.
Oh, sorry to take a dump on Connecticut.
No, it's actually really funny that you felt that way because I actually feel the same way living there. So it drives me insane. So I'm curious, when you were shooting that Greenwich episode, was there anything about the suburbs that surprised you?
Yeah, there were a lot of people, not just shooting that, but just in general, who say, I'm a city person and I just moved here because my kids, for the yard or whatever. I think there's a big emphasis on yards. Yeah. For me, I sort of feel like I have a yard. It's called Central Park. I don't know. I'm not a big sports person, in case you can't tell. I'm the worst athlete in America. I'm just not into sports. So I feel like if people grow up playing sports and they really relish the out of doors, I'm a very indoorsy person. But I guess my surprise would be just that there were more people like me than I thought. And I think it's almost heightened if you feel that way and you're in this petri dish of, blonde lacrosse stick toting Aryan nation with Roman numerals. I felt more other there than I do in New York. So I can only imagine what they're going through. Oh, I love your pizza shirt. That's awesome.
All right.
Bueller. Hi.
Hi. I'm just curious to know, what was the writing process like for this show? Because I know it's based on a book, but I was wondering, do you draw stuff out of the book, or do you also incorporate some stuff from your personal experience too?
That's a great question. It's actually all personal experience. The book was really source material only insofar as the world that we inhabit, but it's very much stories that happened to me, stories that happened to the other writers, and we just kind of weave them all together. But we break it down into each character, and each character is assigned a color for Post-its, and we sort of break each scene and do it by color. So one of our writers is a very visual learner, and that's sort of how she codified everything. And so I really am into it, and I think that I probably have ADD. I just was never diagnosed, but it really helps me focus instead of all these words blurring across a whiteboard, because I think most shows, they have whiteboards and they write the ideas, but ours is very, very Tetris-y and organized, and they all kind of fit together. But without the color coding, I feel like, I don't know how people do it. That's how we do it. And it was really fun. I really like everyone's sharing their stories, and some people just have a knack for Candace's voice. Some people really know exactly how Brooke is going to speak, and I definitely need a guy to tell me how to write Andy and Lex, because I'm more stereotypical about when I think of a Wall Street douchebag, certain things will come out, but I don't want it to sound too bro, and that's really why we need David.
Awesome. Next.
Hi.
Hi.
So since you wrote so many novels before season 1, was it easy for you to transition from writing something from a book to a screen? Did you teach yourself how to screenwrite?
That's a great question. I actually hadn't mentioned, but I was writing, while I was doing my novels, I was also writing pilots, and I wrote a feature. I wrote 2 features that Paramount bought and never made, and I wrote countless teleplays that were bought but never made, and it was really frustrating. And I sort of gave up on TV writing because I thought, they buy 5 times as many things as they intend to produce, and my parents would say, wait, but I read about this thing in Variety that this is going to get made, and then it would just sit there, and it gets almost embarrassing because you see your friends and they're like, when is that coming out? And I said, I don't know, they're working on it. But with books, which is why I even started doing books, is they only purchase what is going to be on a bookshelf. And so I felt like it's more gratifying if I'm going to take time away from my kids and spin my wheels. I want to know it's going to see the light of day. So I had started with a screenplay for an indie movie that was at Sundance. I hated it, but it was an experience and it got made. But then all my other projects really languished. I felt like I needed to just extract myself from the process and do my books and just focus on things that were gonna come out. So it wasn't, I had to learn not so much how to write for TV, but how to construct an arc that takes you through 10 episodes, because that I had never done. So that was a learning curve, but it came pretty naturally. I watched so much TV that I think I had learned just for watching TV for 40 years. It kind of helped.
Thanks for your question. And Odd Mom Out airs Wednesday nights on Bravo. Jill, thanks for coming by today.
Thank you for having me.
Give her one more round of applause.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. You're so nice. Thank you so much.